In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a patterned floor or any floor, but in this case it's going to be a square tile floor. So to do that, we're going to use floor, but we're going to use an architectural floor instead of a structural floor. And so first thing we're going to do is create, in a sense, a secondary finished floor system. And to do that, I'm just going to use a boundary line. I find in the long run those are easiest. And I'm just going to snap a boundary line here. And then second is that I've got to find a type for this. Let's just use a leveling slab that I made before. And it really could be any of them, but the simpler the better, because then you have to change fewer things. And I'm going to edit that later. But where I want it placed is, of course, on the finished floor. But I want it placed about a 1/2 inch because I'm going to make my floor, even though it's 2 inches right now, I'm going to make it a 1/2 inch thick. And so I'm going to apply that and say OK. And now I'm going to have a floor, and it's got a concrete on it. But if I go and select, we can see there it is, and there. So I'm going to edit this type now. So I'm going to pop the edit type up, and I'm going to duplicate, and this I'm going to call 12-inch tile floor. Let's just call it finish. And of course we could call it anything we want. The next thing I'm going to do is come in here and change its structure. So I'm going to go into edit, and here I'm going to change this to 0.5 inches, so it's a 1/2 inch thick. And then I'm going to change this from a structure to a finished material and uncheck structural. And the next thing I'm going to do is change the material. So I'm going to go in here and select material. And there's a material in here that's a good start for what I want to do, and it's called a VCT, and there it is, vinyl composite tile. Okay, and this is your typical vinyl tile, but I'm going to use it as the base for what I want to do. And so I'm going to send it up here, and now I'm going to change its appearance in a variety of different ways. The first is the surface pattern. I'm going to change that from none. And instead of a drafting pattern, I'm going to call it, I'm going to go to model patterns, and you'll see a 12-inch tile right here. Now you can create these and make these yourself by using these as templates, but I'm just going to, since I already have a 12-inch tile in here. If you don't, then you're going to have to open one of the existing ones and make changes to make it a 12-inch tile. So I'm going to say OK. And so when the surface pattern is turned on in a medium or fine detail, then this is going to appear. The gray is the color of the line, and I want that to be much darker. So I'm going to go kind of a charcoal here. Not quite black, but a little bit of a charcoal. The other is the shading color. Okay, that's the, if it goes into a shading mode, what is it going to shade it? And I'll leave that right there. Cut pattern, we can just leave that as none. And then let's go into appearance. And in appearance, it's using an image of a vinyl tile, and that's not what I want. What I'm going to do is use a procedural material called tiles. So I'm going to select tiles here, and then I can go in and select all kinds of variables. The first one, I'm going to come in here and say I want 1 and 1 here, because my base is 1 foot, and so I want the tile to be 1 foot by 1 foot. Now I can change that base by going down here and saying sample size is 1 foot by 1 foot. I could say sample size is 2 foot by 2 foot, and then I'd have to put 2 in here, so it'd break it up into 2 feet. The grout appearance, okay, charcoal is fine. The tile appearance here is kind of a gray. I want that a lot lighter than that, so I'm going to crank this up to closer to white, just a little tint to it. And so a little gray tile, and this only is going to be when it renders, right? So I'm going to go done, And I'll go ahead and accept all the other parameters in it, reflectivities and all of that. If you get it more into materials, then you can start making your own kind of material. Oh, we should have, well, since I've already got this in my library, I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to go ahead and change this. I should have duplicated it, but let's go in here into identity. And here I'm just going to call, we'll call it tile first, then generic, white, and then 12 inches. That way it'll be easier to call back up. I'm going to apply that. That looks good. So I'm going to say OK to this. And now we've applied this new tile here. I'm going to say OK. And then course pattern, I'll still leave this at just no fill pattern. And I'll say OK. Now you'll see this underlying blue grid. And so now you'll see that I have my tile floor. Okay. And so that's an easy way to distinguish different surface areas and stuff like this. And of course, you can add any kind of material you want, whether it's wood or whatever. But that's how I would do floors. And you'll see now that if I go in here into the section, we'll go in here to this wall section. And if we go on the first floor here, and let's turn it off. Yeah, and so you can see my tile right there. So there's my tile sitting on top of the floor.